Phoenix and the Hummingbird, Chapter 3. Story written and created by Jasper BlackLace, audio by Koushi. Genevieve's perspective. The silence that echoed following her statement made the timid girl next to her shiver. It also made the sudden clatter of a platter from the direction of the kitchen even louder than it should have been. My father's calm expression became somewhat of a face mask, and my brother's anger began seeping through his skin, enveloping the room in pure rage. I, however, remained calm and awaited the continuation of the conversation. "What kind of request is that? What is this? A damn hotel?" Raphael lifted his shoulders in protest and glanced my way for confirmation on his outburst. I looked away from him toward the girl who was slowly picking at her loaf of bread and looking at the table. "Son, please make yourself scarce before you make yourself and our family a laughingstock." My father's echoing fury shook me to my core. Ophelia dropped her bread and put her hands in her lap. "By all means, Your Highness. Enlighten me in your disgust at the idea. I'm quite perturbed as to your reaction." Lucinda paired her challenging question with resting her head on the back of her hands and leaning forward toward my brother. Her gesture was dominating and powerful. "I'm not marrying the both of you. Why should both of you come together? That wasn't part of the deal. Nor did your father mention the existence of your sister in the first place. So please forgive me for being concerned for my family and our social standing in this empire with the sudden appearance of Ophelia Atwood and her tagging along as a marriage present." He rolls his eyes in Lucinda's direction and smirks at her. "You can't very well be concerned about that until we sign the marriage agreement now. Can you, Your Highness?" Her argument was accurate. The agreement between the two families hasn't been signed yet, and that's all thanks to her and her little sister. Her father has always claimed she had the last say when it comes to her marriage from the beginning, so I can't be completely surprised. I can't help but question the motive of this demand and why it's so important to her anyway. "Your Highness, might I ask a question?" The words were out of my mouth before I had a chance to stop myself. My brother's boiling anger stretched across the room and made Lucinda much more on edge and defensive than before. "What might that be, Genevieve?" Her gaze shifts to me, and she crosses her arms over her chest, giving me her whole attention. "Why is this what you want?" My question is direct, and my voice remains gentle with the pointed question. "At least one of you knows how to ask what's on their mind without being repulsive." She smiles at me, kindly lowering her guard. The gesture is followed with her hand resting over her sister's below the table, and her face becomes serious. "My sister's the only person in my family I will not abandon. Leaving my father, I couldn't care less. To be blunt, she is vulnerable and way too weak to my father's antics. I can't leave her there without me, hence why it's taken me till my mid-30s to find a possible match and come this far." Lucinda waved over a staff member and whispered in their ear. They rushed out of the room and returned with a pen and paper, handing it to Ophelia and leaving the room. Ophelia shakily took the pen to the paper and spelt out the words, "I am mute." My brother's eyes softened as they hit the paper. However, his anger didn't dissipate. Instead, he looked betrayed. My father matched his soft gesture, but remained serious within the conversation. My jaw physically dropping must have made Ophelia uncomfortable as she placed the pad down before her and avoided any further eye contact. "Sorry, we weren't aware of such information. If I had been, I would have prepared a form of communication for her beforehand." I rushed out quickly, adjusting my physical appearance and begging for her to look at me, if only for a moment. "I wouldn't have expected you to. Not many are aware of her condition, as it's not genetic. Nor was she born as such. She just lost her ability to communicate just before my introduction ceremony to the public when I was 16. "Okay, fair enough, but that doesn't explain why we're only finding out about her now," my brother asks pointedly at Lucinda to avoid eye contact with Ophelia. My guess is he's starting to feel guilty over his blow-up earlier. "No one knows of her unless we know them and trust them. If I'm going to accept this marriage, I know this is the last step to get what we both want. And if you have any respect for me and my power to help your family, you'll drop your barbaric attitude and apologize to my sister for your putrid behavior." Her gaze hardens in his direction, and Ophelia follows the gesture, but with a terrified expression. "I apologize for my behavior this evening. Even if I believed it to be reasonable, it must have startled you." He ended his half-baked apology with a smile in Ophelia's direction. "I think that's enough for tonight," my father said, placing his cup on the table and standing at his feet. "Raphael, Genevieve, we will meet tomorrow afternoon to discuss this further. Until then, I bid everyone a good night." He bows towards us and walks out of the room quickly before my brother stands. "Look, Lucinda, I am sorry for getting so defensive, but with so much weighing on myself and my family, it's not so easy for me to understand your decision to hide this to the last possible moment. It's not something I take kindly to, as it could have seriously hurt us in the future if done any later." "I can understand, Your Highness, but please know I have my reasons. I wouldn't have even told you of her if my plan wasn't to marry you in the future. My goal is to keep her safe, nothing more. All I ask is for your help to do so." Ophelia pinched her arm, making her jump slightly and sigh. "It appears I've said more than intended this evening. Ophelia and I will retire and see you again tomorrow. Thank you for the dinner and your company this evening. I hope we'll be able to see eye to eye in the near future. Good night, everyone, and thank you." Both women bowed towards us and left the room. "What the fuck?" My brother's energetic response to the situation gave way to the sudden departure of the staff. Whenever my brother got angry, it was difficult to reason with him. And half of the time, I was the only one besides our mom who could calm him. Considering the fact my father bolted almost immediately after the demand was given, and the staff just dissolved into thin air, I guess I had no choice but to act fast. "What kind of bullshit is that? You've got to be kidding me. We can hardly afford to keep everyone here fed, and she wants to add a second mouth to the marriage? This is completely ridiculous and against protocol." "Is it really that big of a deal? I don't think I could have said anything worse." "Big deal? Are you kidding me, Genevieve? We have been living on rice and chicken for the past 3 years. We only had the potatoes for tonight because Father got them in a trade at the market for a historical artifact from our museum. We can hardly afford to feed ourselves, let alone 2 high society females from a country in our kingdom. Without this marriage, we're going to lose everything down to a single grain of rice. They know this, and I have no real choice but to accept this ridiculous demand. It's not just adding another mouth. She's going to be family through marriage, won't she? We'd have to have her over here frequently, considering the love they have for each other. It saves us money on transportation and maintenance." "You're reaching at bullshit, Genevieve. Transportation costs a fraction of food, considering only high-esteemed families and farms typically have means of travel aside from walking. The point is, this is an ultimatum, and we have no choice but to accept." "Well, there's no reason it has to be forever. She never said it had to be. Maybe just wait a year or two, then make her leave?" For some reason, by recommending this, my heart decided to send a sharp pain like a shockwave through my body, and my pulse quickened. I felt like I was stuck between satisfying my brother and helping our people. "You're not wrong. I can consider this idea. However, it might break our alignment, and she can very well demand a divorce if that happens. It wouldn't be rejected by the church until 5 years into our marriage." "Not with a logical reason to send her away. I'm sure we could think of something that Lucinda couldn't deny. I suppose a year or 2 could give us time to come up with a better plan to get her out of our household and return to normal protocol. If you want, I can be around in the shadows during your private meetings until we make a true decision." "That wouldn't be so bad. Out of everyone here, you are the only person I trust completely. I will have trigger words during each meeting as to when you can leave and send it to you ahead of time." "I can work with that. I'll send Fifi to you every night, and if you don't need her, send her back when you can." "Sounds like a plan. I'll expect her first visit tomorrow evening, and it seems we will be having visitors for a short while." "Okay, brother. Good night." I bow to him quickly and retreat out of the room. Mark, if you and your staff keep leaving me to deal with him alone each time, I'll have all of you fired. My sarcastic tone is strained as I toss my hair over my shoulder and wipe some sweat from the back of my neck in the process. Sorry, Your Highness. Lucinda wishes to speak to you briefly in their chambers if you have the time. He gestures towards the grand hall leading to the main guest room. Did she give you any mention as to what she might want? He shook his head and handed me a short glass of warm milk and a small black velvet box. The milk is for Lucinda's sister, and the box is a family jewel sent to her as a peace offering from your father. Not sure what your brother plans to do, however, considering his temper tantrum. Don't let him hear you say that. A custom in our empire is to give someone something of beauty or usefulness when we wish to imply sincere apologies to another. It seems my father picked beauty over usefulness. Lucinda said to knock 4 times quickly to signify your arrival, and she will let you in. He bows deeply, then walks off to the dining room to help clear the mess. I wave him goodbye and walk towards the door to their room. Once I got to the door, I knocked 4 times quickly and waited about 5 seconds before the door opened, and I was met with Ophelia's fearful face and with only half of her body showing from behind the door. She wore a light green nightgown with small white hummingbirds in a sporadic display. Her hair was down and flowing naturally around her small figure, and she stood tall, just below my jawline. Looking down on others was not my strong suit. She tilted her head slightly, as if questioning why I was there, reacting with a nod to the items in my hands before speaking. Hello, Your Highness. I was asked to visit your sister for a brief moment, and I've brought a drink for you and a gift from my father as a means of apology. She reached for both items and knocked her head to the side to give me the signal to enter the room. She took the box to a small vanity in the corner and sat at the stool before it. She sipped her milk slowly to completion before turning to the velvet box resting center stage on her table. She opened the box slowly and carefully. Her jaw dropped slightly for a brief moment before the most adorable smile played across her face. It was a pink daisy hairpin matching the flowers on her dress from dinner. She glanced over at me with a smile and walked to her pad and paper before writing, "Please thank him for me tomorrow." "Don't worry. I will. He'll be glad to know how happy it made you. Did you want me to help you try it on?" "That would be kind. Thank you." I walk over to her as she once again sits down in her chair. I came up behind her, grabbed her brush from over her shoulder, and began styling her hair gently. I pulled back her front-framing hairs of her face and was hit with the smell of sweat and vanilla. I shakily placed the clip in her hair and stepped back holding the hand mirror to show her the result. She reacted so happily that it made my heart skip a beat. Before I knew it, I leaned down, picked up a small piece of her silky smooth hair, and brought it to my lips. "It suits you, Your Highness." I placed a small kiss to the end of her hair, resulting in her quick spin to face me with flushed cheeks that made my skin heat. We ended up staring at each other for a few moments. "What in the world is going on here?" Lucinda's cold and stoic voice came from behind me, laced with anger. You have finished Chapter 3 of Phoenix and the Hummingbird. Written and created by Jasper BlackLace and audio by Kawushi. We'll see you next time.